Welcome to Nutrition Tips and Fitness Bits here at the Worcester County Health Department. My name is Kathy Wool. I'm the dietitian here at the Health Department. I have a really special guest today, and I'm going to let her introduce herself.
Hello everyone, my name is Becky Jones. I'm Health Officer for Worcester County. Very pleased to be here with Kathy Wool today and excited to get going and show you all this wonderful recipe that Kathy has for us here today.
Well, today, Becky, we're going to do something that I think the audience will really appreciate. We've been really encouraging people to go to farmers markets, and this time of the year, like in the fall, towards the winter, we see a lot of squash. One in particular is the spaghetti squash, and I think for some people they're afraid of it because they don't know what to do with it. It looks kind of ominous. So we're going to show the audience what you can do with this, and we're going to make a delicious cheesy spaghetti squash bread.
Ooh, that sounds very
So when you're picking out a spaghetti squash, what you're looking for is you want something to be heavy for its size.
Okay.
You don't want to have any blemishes on it. Why don't you feel that?
Oh,
How
yes.
heavy that is? That shows that it's a good one. Then you're just going to get your sharpest knife and as careful as you can. You're just going to cut the spaghetti squash lengthwise, just like you see me doing. And then you pull it open.
Okay.
And what you have is two sides. Now that doesn't even look like an unusual squash, does it?
Does not. No.
All right. Jagged edge grapefruit spoon, and just kind of scoop out all around, just like you would do a pumpkin.
Okay.
And you're scooping out those seeds.
Got it. For those at home, if we had smell-o-vision, it does remind you the aroma of something similar to a pumpkin.
It does. It smells just like a pumpkin. Now, and I'm only good at this because this is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th one I've done in the last 2 weeks, which is more spaghetti squash than I've eaten in my life. Okay, so we did a great job. The seeds are all out, and we've left really none of the stringy stuff either.
Right.
The next step is to cook these, because you're going to cook them before we actually make the bread. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a little bit of olive oil on it. I've got you a nice pastry brush. If you will just kind of put a little oil on there and spread it around. It's a very simple step, not too much, because again, we're trying to keep this healthy.
Sure. So
the less, higher fat things we use, even though olive oil is good for us, we don't want to overdo it with the olive oil. And then the recipe does say to add salt and pepper. If you're cautious about your sodium or you're trying to watch how much salt you use, you don't have to use any, because the squash has a great flavor. If you can control it and you're feeling like you want just a little bit of flavor, you could use a little bit of salt on it. And then pepper, of course, as much as you want.
Sure. Is it just on the inside, or do we?
Yeah, no, just on the inside. We're actually going to put these on a cookie sheet with a little bit of water, and they're going to go in the oven for about 40 minutes. 40 minutes.
Very good.
So I'm going to sprinkle with a little pepper. And just to make our audience know that we can be slow with the salt, I always put it in my hand first, sprinkle a little bit on here, that way it's controlled. And then we're just going to pop this in the oven, ready to go.
Very good.
Okay. So you can see how nice these look. They came out of the oven. They have a little bit of a roasted flavor. Now some people like to just steam their squash, but this gives this recipe a nice flavor when it's roasted. So what we're doing now is we are actually going to scrape these strands out, because when you look at spaghetti squash, why is it called spaghetti squash?
Because it looks like spaghetti.
It looks just like spaghetti. So the squash one here doesn't look like it, but once you take your fork and you scrape along, what you get is spaghetti.
This is it is very easy to scrape. Very, very tender.
You're doing a great job. I bet this is on your menu tonight.
It may be. It may be.
Well, and what people do is, this is a vegetable. It's not really carbohydrate. So you save a lot of carbohydrate, a lot of calories if you're substituting this for pasta. And it resembles it. So some people like to put like a marinara sauce on it or a scampi sauce on it, just to give it some flavor. It's high in fiber, high in some B vitamins, some C vitamins. So therefore, what it's really good for is if you're controlling heart disease, diabetes, any of the chronic diseases, this is a great substitute for eating pasta all the time.
Sounds great. I cannot wait to try this.
So a lot of squash from spaghetti.
It is, and I cannot tell our folks how easy it was to scrape out. It just was a lot easier than what I thought. So now I'm just curious, Kathy, do we just start adding in our ingredients?
Almost.
Okay.
One more step. Spaghetti squash has some water in it. And since this is a spaghetti squash cheesy bread, we need to squeeze the water out.
Okay.
So all you do is take one of your clean towels at home, and you cover your squash with your towel, And after I get this in here, you'll start to see when I squeeze it, my towel will start getting wet. I'll let you press it too so you can kind of feel how the towel is getting wet. And just going to squeeze as much water out as you can. And you don't have to get it, it won't drain in a colander, so you really want to squeeze it on. So now it's time for the rest of the ingredients. We're going to start with 2 eggs. I'll let you go ahead and do the eggs. Just crack them right in there. Remember, this is a cheesy bread, and you'll be surprised that there isn't any bread in it.
Wow. I cannot wait to see this final product.
And I'm going to add 2 cloves of minced garlic. In here is we put 2 eggs, we put 1/4 cup of cornstarch, a teaspoon of oregano, 2 cloves of garlic minced, we put a teaspoon of parsley, and then we put red pepper flakes to taste. And once again, you can go back to the salt and pepper if so desired, but remember, you're going to kind of go slowly because you already put it on the squash when you cook it. Time to cook it.
Home stretch?
Alrighty, so what I've done is this is parchment paper. If you're not familiar with it, it just keeps it from sticking. What I'd like you to do is spray a little bit of the non-stick spray on the parchment paper. We are actually just going to transfer this right to the cookie sheet. Spread it out almost like a pizza crust. Cook it and enjoy it.
Great. Is that enough?
That is enough. Alright, so here it comes. And I'll go ahead and let you do this, and we're just going to spread it out like a square, so it's maybe about a 1/2 inch thick, not too thick. And it looks really good. It smells delicious. And you can cut these into squares when it's time to eat, so once it's done, we'll do that and enjoy the great flavor. So you can see that I don't have too many red pepper flakes in there, but people that wanted to adjust it for flavor could easily add more. Or not at all. Or not at all. Or you could add more garlic if you find you don't like it, you want it more garlic. That's a great job. It kind of looks like a square pizza.
It does.
So we're going to cook this for about 25 minutes. It'll dry out a little bit. You take it out. It's cooked at 400 degrees. And you take it out in 25 minutes, sprinkle a little bit of Parmesan on the top, put it in just to brown it, and then enjoy it. So we're ready?
Yes.
Let's put it in the oven. So here's our spaghetti squash cheesy bread. How does it look?
It looks wonderful. And friends at home, I wish you had smell-o-vision because it is just mouth-watering. I just cannot wait.
And you can see it doesn't stick, it's thin, so what we're going to do, I do 2 things. You can use a pizza cutter, that works very well, so I'm just going to slice this up into some slices so that we can sample. And you can also, I use scissors, you can use a knife, and be ready. And actually, you can eat this almost like a piece of pizza if you wanted, so you could bring it to lunch, you could take it on a picnic with you, lots of options to enjoy it. So,
do you refrigerate any leftovers you may have?
Yes, you should refrigerate because you do have egg in here and you do have the cheeses in here, so you want to make sure that you keep that refrigerator. Oops.
Retake that.
Retake that, guy.
I'm keeping that in there.
Ready?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's time to sample.
Oh, yes.
And, I'm ready if you are.
Yes,
you can just pick these up.
Very good.
Very good. You can taste the spaghetti squash, and for an alternate, you can dip it in marinara sauce, something, or you can, I just like to enjoy it plain.
It's perfect plain.
Great. I'm so glad that you enjoyed it. It's really good.
I did.
Well, Becky, I want to thank you for joining us here today on this episode of Nutrition Tips and Fitness Bits. It was a delight to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed my time.
Good. Well, and remember, eat healthy, be active, and live tobacco-free.